guys, and welcome back to the Crawl Room. We're here once again in this wonderful ranty room for all things Formula One. So, the Monaco Grand Prix has come to a close, and what could be said really? It was a good race overall, wasn't it? Let's be honest, the rain certainly helped. The drama and excitement and the mistakes here and there from the drivers, particularly Lance Stroll. But yeah, you know, it added a little bit of drama that it just needed to add to it. But even before that, you know, the racing itself was quite good in the mid-pack. We did see some actual overtakes done in the dry. We saw Carlos Sainz trying his best to self-destruct several times. You know, we had all that little bit of drama in the dry as well as when it rained. And the rain, as much as we were expecting to cause chaos, the order pretty much stayed as it was, didn't it? I know Ferraris dropped down a couple of places, but Ferraris and Ferrari strategies could do that anyway without the drama of the rain. So that wasn't really a surprise, but everyone else kind of stayed where they were. You know, they're either too far back to actually have an advantage from pitting on the inters early, or they were that far ahead that pitting on the inters late actually didn't change anything. So yeah, it was a dramatic race, but in the end, all order stayed as it was really, which was a little bit strange. So if you've never seen this series before, I award the drivers out a maximum of 10 points based on their race weekend's performance, and I go all the way down to 0 if they have a particularly bad one. Take a look out for bonus points though. They're sometimes on offer for some drivers to do something extra special during a race, and on the very rare occasion I do award minus points to those drivers that do something extra special, but for all the wrong reasons. So let's take a look at the current Crawl Room standings then. They're on the screen now for you to take a look at. Of course, the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix was cancelled due to rain. Thoughts go out to everyone that's affected. I hope everyone gets their homes sorted. And it was a lot of damage done there, wasn't there, with the floods. And it was nice to see the likes of Yuki Tsunoda and the AlphaTauri team, of course, based close to the circuit, helping out with the flood damage, sweeping up, helping clear up the damage. So massive respect to those guys for that. And yeah, best wishes once again go to everyone that was affected in the floods. So as always, we're going to kick things off with the race winner. It was, of course, Max Verstappen. Yes, it was him again, wasn't it? In that bloody Red Bull. But this weekend, I think it demonstrated why he is doing as well as he's doing. I mean, let's get things sorted. You know, the car is the best on the grid by a good margin. You know, I'm not disputing that whatsoever. But Max Verstappen this weekend was able to pull things out of the bag and do things that shouldn't really be done, or only Max Verstappen can do with the car he's got, because I am convinced there was no other driver at that moment in time sat in that car that would have been able to drive those mediums as far as he did. He did such a great job in that stint, and still extending the gap on Alonso that was on the hard tyres, that were obviously the same mileage, you know, the same distance, but of course they were meant to go further. It was just perfect, really, from him, weren't it? And I know there's going to be people going, yeah, but he clipped that wall there slightly, and yeah, he had a slight brush of that wall. That was Max Verstappen on edge, that. It really, really was. You know, it got the slick tyres on a wet track, and then at the end, as the inters were still inters towards the end, but there was that dry line, and so they were blistering a little bit, you know, and wearing out. And he was just sliding it, and just a kiss of a barrier here and a touch of a barrier there, and it just added to the whole drama and excitement of he is millimetres away from crashing, because he was just so in the zone that he was just able just to keep sticking lap in after lap consistently, and over 20 seconds out of Alonso at the end. Of course, that was helped by the fact that Aston Martin pitted twice, but we'll come to that in a minute. But, you know, he just drove perfectly. And yeah, best car. But I think that Monaco, you know, the best car is almost, you know, not irrelevant, but it certainly plays less of a role at Monaco. And especially when Red Bull have got the DRS advantage that they have, every other circuit, that counts, that matters. But here at Monaco, it makes hardly any difference whatsoever. You know, that qualifying lap where it was 2/10 down in Sector 2, and then to do the job and be almost a 10th up at the line was just impeccable. Just impeccable. And that really proves why he's winning all the races that he's winning. And, you know, Red Bull deserve the victories because they've built an incredible car. They've got a car that's designed around their main driver, and that main driver at the moment can do no wrong. You know, he really can't. Yeah, I know I've docked him points for moaning in the past, but, that, you know, in terms of driving ability at the moment, he's the creme de la creme, isn't he? He really is. So for Max Verstappen this weekend, and it's got to be 11 points on the cruel room to him. It really, really has. One bonus point for just being impeccable. It was a flawless weekend. I couldn't find anything wrong with it, really. I'm sure people will disagree with me for that and think, well, it's all the car that does it. But look at where Perez was. You know, so what can I say? It's 11 points to Max Verstappen. Then we come to Fernando Alonso. Absolutely, here he is once again. The Spaniard securing his first second place since Hungary 2014, 3,000 and some days ago. Almost 10 years, basically, is how long ago it was. It was absolutely incredible. Again, Fernando Alonso is just doing so well. Again, it's just almost pole position. He does a great job to stay within touching distance of Max, even when Max has got the far better car. He built up a nice gap on Ocon, and then the pit stops came. They kind of had a bit of confusion there over the team radio as, look, I think it's Inters. Well, we're going mediums. Okay, you know, there was not really any backlash from Alonso for that in the radio stint, so went and did an extra lap on the slick tyres that he didn't need to do. Such was his advantage at this point that he was able to drive round again, pit again, put the Inters on and still come out in second place. So yeah, for Fernando Alonso though this weekend, it was a great weekend again, wasn't it? Kept his cool, kept his calm, kept his composure. If only they'd have put intermediate tyres on at that stop, where could he have been? Where could he have been? It has certainly been a lot closer to Max, if not ahead of him come the pit stops. So for Fernando Alonso this weekend, it's going to be a harsh, I know I'm saying the word harsh, a harsh 9. 9 points to Alonso this weekend. And everyone's going to be saying, why ain't it a 10? Why ain't it a 10? Why aren't you just giving him the Cruel Room Championship already? Well, the reasoning for that is he did lose a hell of a lot of time to start with when he did get pitted onto those intermediate tyres. Yes, I'm aware he lost a massive chunk to Max because he pitted twice. I get that completely. But his pace wasn't great, first of all, and it was to the point where Ocon was on the back of him. You know, he ended up getting that close to him at one stage. So yeah, I know the pit stops didn't work out, but Alonso lacked that pace just briefly over the first 4 or 5 laps of that intermediate stint and was really, really struggling. And yeah, you know, I have to be cruel to be kind at some point because, yeah, it looks like Alonso's probably going to run away with the Cruel Room Championship at the moment, but I have to find fault with these impeccable drives at times. You know, I have to dig deep and try and make it at least a little bit fairer to the other guys, you know. So yeah, it's a harsh 9, but I don't want to take anything away from Fernando this weekend. It really, really is. He drove so well. And the only reason, like I say, why I'm knocking that 1 point off is because he did lose a lot of time when he did go on to the Inters eventually. There was a few laps of difficulty there for him. And also the slight miscommunication with the pit stop radioing message. Alonso wanted Inters. They confirmed they were putting in mediums on. And there was no real connection there or anyone asking the question again of Alonso going, no, I'd like Inters, please. Or, did you say mediums? Like, why are we doing this? But, you know, all to play for, not to worry. What could have been? 9 points to Alonso. And then in third place it is Esteban Ocon, or Esti Besti, as he likes to call himself. Hoo, 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 hoo. A little bit gip-worthy there, but never mind, Esti Besti, yeah? Yeah, for Esteban Ocon. Fantastic drive this weekend and an impeccable qualifying performance. Lined up P4, started P3, of course, because of Leclerc's penalty, and then just stayed in third. He stayed in third and had to relinquish the pressure of Sainz behind. He sorted that out, no problem. Sorted Sainz out, no thanks pal, you're not coming through. And then he had the likes of Hamilton and Russell chomping at the bit of him for that final podium position at the end there as well. And really, really, really good drive. He deserved that P3 and the P3 he got. Nice to see a different team as well on the podium this season as opposed to just the regular ones. Yeah, great to see. And at Monaco as well. It's always special when an underdog team gets a podium at Monaco. But Alpine have had this result coming really. You know, since Australia they look strong and the car was looking really good. They've been unlucky in other situations. They've been nowhere in other races. And they finally knuckled down and got a solid result here that they duly deserved. And congratulations Esteban Ocon. It is going to be 12 points to you. I do feel that is a 12-point worthy because the qualifying was second to none, the race was second to none, and again, a bit like Max Verstappen, I couldn't find fault in it. Could not find fault in it at all. He drove really, really well. 12 points to Ocon. In fourth place and just finishing outside the podium positions is Lewis Hamilton with his side pods on the car. What are these pods that are sides? Yes, clearly Mercedes have decided they're not going to go with the no pod option anymore. Wasted too much time on it, got to the end of the tether with it, can't make it any quicker. So let's put side pods on. It's supposed to be introduced in Imola, of course it's introduced in Monaco, so it'd be interesting to see how it plays out. Hamilton made a lot of hard work for himself though this weekend, didn't he? Crashing in FP3, which he didn't need to do towards the end of the session, admittedly. Didn't do much damage, but it's just not the kind of confidence that you need going into a qualifying weekend. And you could see that because when he got into qualifying, he was struggling. He was almost out in Q1 because of mistakes and, you know, having to abort laps because he cut the chicane or made a mistake. Q2, he was almost out again, dragging the car through on the final dying seconds to get through. But as the track was evolving, thankfully his last lap came good, so he could get through. You know, because at some points he was on old tyres and doing a couple of cool-down laps and having to go again. So it's good that the circuit was low deg, and of course that the track was evolving so rapidly that it was better to be last than just get your banker in early and stay there. So yeah, Lewis Hamilton this weekend, in the end, in the Q3 session where it mattered as where he qualified, he actually qualified 5th and started 4th, which is where he finished, which you look at the pen to paper and go, yeah, great weekend overall. He did a solid job, but I just felt there was a lot of hard work there that didn't need to be. There was a lot of stress that didn't need to be there. You know, as mentioned, the FP3 crash, the qualifying 1 nearly out, qualifying 2 nearly out. You know, he'd made so many errors that it could have easily made another error, and he could have been down there in like the mid-teens, even the late teens at some stages with his performance. So, yeah, probably a harsh score this, and people are going to criticise me for it, I'm sure. But it's going to be 7 to Lewis Hamilton, and that is the reason, you know, that the mistakes that he made, and some people have said I've been over generous to Hamilton this year with some of his performances that have been lacklustre, and I've awarded good scores. So I think this will probably balance that out a little bit as well, because I just looked at it and thought, yeah, P4 there, great. Should have really been ahead of Ocon in qualifying, you know. He was lucky that Leclerc got a penalty, and in theory, could he have got ahead of Ocon? He could have done, but it just didn't quite work out that way. So, yeah, solid 7 to Lewis Hamilton. Then we come to George of the Russell. Watch out for that top 5. And here he is finishing in the top 5, which has been few and far between this season, it must be said. What could be said for George's race this weekend? Again, you know, qualifying, he looked a lot better and a lot stronger than Hamilton in Q1, Q2. Didn't get his lap together in Q3, so started 8th. And here he is finishing 5th, and you think, well, you've gained places in Monaco. That should be highly rewarded. You know, 3 places is a lot to gain, but you've done it. Regardless of how you've done it, you've done it. But it could have been a podium, couldn't it? Could have been a podium for George, just for that mistake of going down the escape road into Tabac, was it, I believe? Oh, just a shame. Reversed out and then drove out, nearly took himself out and Perez out with the rejoin. Got himself a 5-second time penalty for that, but that didn't matter because the gap to the car behind was so significant. But it could have been a race ending down an escape road because Stroll was already down there chilling out. He could have tagged into the back of him there. He could have hit the wall, and as he reversed out and rejoined, he could have taken Perez out and himself out. It was all luck as to how it didn't happen, really. You know, it was quite a hefty whack from Perez, but thankfully it's a low-speed corner, so was able just to bounce off each other and carry on. And then, even then, it was lucky that the car behind was more than 5 seconds, so the penalty they got for it didn't matter. So, yeah, George should have been a podium. You know, Esteban Ocon has stayed out an extra lap. You pitted a lap early. It was your advantage. It was the ball in your court there at that point, and he could have easily finished P3. So to miss out on a podium at Monaco, great shame, really. And for George of the Russell this weekend, it's going to be a solid 7 to him too. So he's going to get the same score as his teammate. Didn't quite get it together in qualifying in the end, although looked stronger. I know that's not going to make sense. I know people are going to criticise me for that. And then in the race, had a good race overall. Made up places, which was brilliant, but it could have been so much more. Just one mistake cost him dear. 7 to George Russell. And then we come to La la, here he is, sha-la-la, in his way into P6, and he started the race in P6 after a 3-place grid drop for impeding Lando Norris in qualifying 3. So yeah, you know, again, starts P6, finishes P6, you think brilliant, well done, good job, started where you finished, intermediate conditions, you know, tricky period there, but I'm just a bit fed up at Leclerc just making mistakes, and this one seemed to be a weekend of... Oh, for fuck's sake. Can't remember where I were up to with Charles then, because my mum just rang me and disturbed me, so I apologise for that, and that's why the cut's there. Can't remember what we're talking about, so I just thought it was, what was it, lacklustre performance, didn't do very well, and I'm going to score him 6. 6 points to Shalala. Yeah, that's that really. 6 to Charles. I apologise for the cut. I just can't be asked to look back and see where the fuck I were before she rang me. And you're watching, Mother, and it really annoyed me. And then we come to Pierre Gasly, Monsieur Pierre, Monsieur. Finishing in P7 in the other Alpine. Solid weekend for them overall. 6 more points gained for Pierre Gasly, of course. And 6 more points to Alpine, and they've rightfully took 5th place in the Constructors now, because I felt everything that happened in Australia where they lost all their points and McLaren gained a load was a bit bullshit. So it was nice to see them get a massive points haul now and get themselves firmly above McLaren, because 5th's realistically where they deserve to finish, and it's nice to see them there with a nice little cushion. Pierre Gasly this weekend has done a solid job, it must be said. He really has done a solid job. But it's just that Ocon's done a much better job. So, you know, I don't want to criticise Pierre too much, but at the same time, I awarded Ocon 12. So, I think for Pierre Gasly, still bearing in mind the car is around this 7th place area realistically, and not in the Dizzy Nights of podiums where Ocon's done something extra special, but Pierre Gasly, it's got to be 8 points to him on the crawl room this weekend. 4 points less than his teammate, but still a respectable score for finishing in a respectable position for where that car's pace is. I think that's how I'm going to assess his weekend overall. Didn't do anything wrong, didn't do anything bad. It was still a great 6 points haul, but his teammate just had something extra special this weekend, didn't he? So yeah, 8 points to Pierre Gasly. Then we come to Carlos Sainz, smooth operator, smooth up. Well, he weren't smooth, was he? It was anything but smooth. Yeah, what could be said for his weekend overall? I just kept watching him on board and nearly took out Ocon, nearly took himself out with that little bit of a desperate dive here and there. You know, that cost him a podium position chance. Then he went down the escape road to back, tagged the wall, looking to carry on. And his just whole manner of driving just was looked like he could just crash at any minute. He just didn't look comfortable, and it was infuriating watching him, to be honest, because every time I was watching it, I was just like, oh, just feck off, Sainz. Like, I don't know why I had that thought, but every time he was on board, he was trying to get round someone, and he just looked desperate. He just didn't look in control of that car at all. And I might be totally getting it wrong, you know. I mean, at the end of the day, he finished down here because of the pit stop strategy. Stayed out too long on the soft tyres, or, well, the slick tyres. But yeah, you know, the mistakes crept in, you know. Took his front wing off almost, you know. He was lucky not to get black and white flagged, or black and orange flagged for that. He got a black and white flag, of course, for the move itself because it was a bit too audacious. You know, he was lucky not to get penalties there. He was lucky that he got it out the wall and that he only tapped it. But all this was costing him time and positions on top of the late pit stop that he did, which already cost him more time. So he's lucky, really, to end up finishing in the points, to be honest. But such is the nature of Monaco. There were that many big gaps here, there and everywhere that he managed to pick up a couple. So for Carlos Sainz this weekend, I'm going to score him 3. 3 points this weekend, and maybe I've really gone into it with too much thought, but like I said, watching it live, I was just aggravated watching him behind the wheel. Reminded me very much of Perez at Singapore in 2018, where he drove like an absolute tosser and just rammed into Sergei Sorokin because he couldn't get around him, or Mark Webber at 2012 Abu Dhabi, where he was just absolutely desperate to overtake everything and everyone and just kept hitting people. You know, if you look back at those 2 races and then look at this Carlos Sainz weekend at Monaco, I think you'll see where I'm coming from there. So yeah, but overall, it is going to be just 3 points to Carlos Sainz. Then we come to Lando Norris, and what could be said for Lando's weekend this weekend overall? Scoring a couple of points in that dog shit McLaren, but the livery has clearly added a few tenths, hasn't it? The pace that car had in the intermediate conditions was ridiculous. It was about 2.5 to 3 seconds a lap faster at some stages than Max Verstappen, the race leader, and that is no joke. Made up a deficit of over 20 seconds to overtake Yuki Tsunoda for this 9th place. However, we know why Tsunoda tumbled down, but even so, 20 odd seconds behind, made it, caught up to him, made the overtake. Still impressive in those conditions. So, yeah, well done to Lando Norris for that. Picking up a couple of points for that McLaren is really all it can do. It's awful to say, isn't it, when a 9th place for McLaren is making you smile. They've gone so backwards these last couple of years, haven't they, since the regulation change, and this year seems to be worse than last. It really does. So, yeah, big shame for that, but at least it's points, and, you know, they've managed to gap Haas a little bit more now, so it's all positives at the moment. But yeah, for Lando Norris overall this weekend, he had the error in qualifying, didn't he? Smacked the wall, nearly cost himself a shot at Q3, and then he got traffic in Q3 by Shalala, which was a shame. It was just one of those things, tight nature of Monaco under the tunnel. But it could have easily been out and not even had a chance to do a lap. So Lando Norris this weekend, yes, some incredible notes there, you know, 20 seconds gained, overtaking Tsunoda, but he just didn't all, you know, it wasn't all that brilliant, was it? The incident really put pay to his weekend. He could have been a lot better, a lot stronger. But yeah, you know, for Lando Norris overall, 8 points this weekend on the cruel room to him. I think that's a good score based on what he did. I think that's fair. I would say that's fair anyway. I'm going with that's fair. And that's the end of that. 8 points to Lando. Next up, it is, of course, Oscar Pastry. What's your favourite pastry? What would be my favourite today? What would be my... I'm going to go for... It's a shame, because I always keep doing this gag, and the only two I ever remember are puff... Oh, no, I've just thought of another one. Puff pastry, choux pastry, or flake pastry. They're the only three that I can remember now, and I keep using those three over and over again because I can't think of any more. So if you know of any more other than those three, stick them in the comments so I can use them next time. So yeah, let me know what your favourite pastry is for Oscar Pastry. Yeah, this weekend has been great for him. He scores a point at Monaco, the first driver since 2019, which I would believe would be Norris at that point, I think. First rookie, I should say. But I don't know really what to do with Oscar Piastri other than praise him, really. Got to praise him for his first time around this weekend to pick up a point. And for me, in my head, this is the first genuine points he's scored in Formula 1 because Australia happened. And I think picking up a point at a circuit that is really difficult to overtake, qualifying 11th, finishing 10th, in tricky conditions, these last couple of weekends, he really has matched, I would say, Lando Norris. So for Oscar Piastri this weekend, I'm going to award him 9 points on the cruel room because I can't really find fault in it. You know, he drove so much better, he drove well, didn't have a crash, so that's a point there, isn't it? 9 points to Oscar Piastri this weekend. Bravo, Oscar. Then we come to Valtteri Bottas, just missing out on points in Alfa Romeo. That point would have been crucial for them had they picked it up, so that's a shame that he just missed out. But overall this weekend, he looked good, didn't he? But I don't know what happened in Q2, whether it was traffic or whether he just didn't get it together. But he ended up starting only 15th, and in practice that car looks so much better to be knocking on the door of Q3, if not in it. So it was a shame to see him a few places behind, and that ultimately cost him potential points this weekend, didn't it? Had he been a bit further up the order, it could have been where Norris and Piastri were, maybe even as high as Gasly, as daft as it sounds like he got it really right. So yeah, Alfa Romeo, it's just a shame to say really that he's just outside the points, but a better weekend I would say for Bottas overall, even if qualifying didn't quite go the way they were expecting. So for Valtteri Bottas, it's going to be 8 points on the cruel room to him this weekend, and I think that's a good score based on his race performance, but has to be docked a couple of points because I think the qualifying cost him a point overall in the race. So there you go. 8 points to Bottas. Then we come to Nick de Vries in the AlphaTauri, and this is probably the best drive he has had this season. In fact, I'm going to say it is the best drive he's had this season. That was a great race. That was a great drive by Nick. Qualified in P12, stayed in P12, drove fantastically well. You can't say fairer than that. He just drove well. It was the changing conditions. He was probably one of the few cars that we didn't see on a replay go down an escape road, cut a corner, bounce off a wall, tag a barrier, knock a front wing off. He didn't have anything. We didn't see anything of him, but that's because he was doing nothing wrong, and it was a shame that he's a couple of positions outside the points, but doing nothing wrong, finishing 12th. It's a good result for Monaco, I've got to be honest. It is a good result for Monaco, and it's a shame it wasn't points, because I think that might have made him a little bit safer where he is at the moment, with the AlphaTauri team wanting him out, clearly. Well, Helmut Marko wanting him out because he's a fucking sponge. But I think it was still a good result, and I think people are going to look at him and go, look, if you can deliver that at Barcelona, we know your car's dog shit, but if you could do that again or similar at Barcelona, we'll think about keeping you on, because we were saying he got a 3-race weekend plan. Of course, Imola didn't happen. Monaco, he's done really well. If he keeps up at Barcelona, it should be okay to stay in that seat, and he does deserve a full season at the very least, does Nick. So, Nick de Vries this weekend, it's going to be 8.5 on the crawl room to him, because that was a really good drive. Really good drive. Solid qualifying, not as good as his teammate. It was a solid race. It wasn't going to be as good as his teammate, but at the same time, he just needs to keep this going and keep the momentum building now. Build on this again, and he will get there. So yeah, 8.5 to Nick de Vries. Unlucky for some, it is Zhou Guanyu finishing in 13th position, and what a shame for Zhou really to be 13th, but he didn't get it right in qualifying, did he? He messed up his final push lap, so was 19th and stayed 19th, only starting ahead of Sergio Perez. So, shame there, big shame. But Zhou in the race put the intermediate tyres on at the right time and came through to finish in 13th position. It was an okay performance from Zhou this weekend, and I've probably been generous by a point here, and people are saying, oh, you love Zhou, you absolutely bomb him. And yeah, I do like Zhou, and I think he has had a better season this season in a difficult car. But, you know, Bottas had a poor qualifying and finished 11th. Zhou had a poor qualifying, finished 13th. I think that's fair of 7. 7 points to Zhou this weekend. That's how I'd award it, that's how I'd work it. And yeah, people will tell me I'm wrong, and that's absolutely fine, but Zhou Guanyu, it is 7 points to him. Finishing in 14th place is Alex Albon, and what could be said for his race weekend? It was okay, wasn't it? It was okay. I mean, the Williams car's a tough car to drive. They had James Vowles on as the radio pundit, you know, the guy that comes on the line. Hi, I'm David Croft. I'm just checking in with my busy mate, me Esti Vesti. It's James Vowles. Hi, James. So great to speak to you. I'm one of your best friends. Can I come to the boat later? No. Ha 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 ha. James, you're such a laugh. You're such a giggle. Ha 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 ha. Why's the security here? Yeah, so for James, he was on the radio and he was saying, like, look, our tyres, we're just chewing the tyres up. We're really struggling. So Albon had an early pit stop, was on those tyres for quite a long time, and then the rain came, put the inters on, finished 14th. He qualified around there, finished there. It's all fair to middling, isn't it? So for Alex Albon this weekend, it's going to be a 6.5 to him. On the crawl room, yeah, it was okay. The car was the car. He did the best job he could, but ultimately it was all for nothing, really. So yeah, 6.5 to Alex Albon. Finishing in 15th place, it's Yuki Tsunoda. Oh, what a shame, Yuki. What a shame. He has been one of my drivers of the season, if not the driver of the season. It's very, very close with Fernando Alonso, though, it must be said, mustn't it? And if people aren't saying that Tsunoda's doing a good job or have him on the radar as one of the best this season, best improvers, then there's something wrong with you. Check your head out. 15th place does not show where he was this weekend. Qualifying in 9th place. Driving in 9th place, driving around in 9th place, doing really, really well. Went onto the intermediate tyres and then it had started to have brake issues with the brake going to the floor. He had a really slack pedal, really, basically. He was having to brake a lot earlier than everyone else. That allowed the two McLarens to catch up and breeze past him. I mean, turn 1 when Piastri got him, it was just so easy. He'd braked, like at the start-finish line, and Piastri just drove straight through. It was such a shame. Tumbled to 11th, but there was a big enough gap there to think, well, at least he can finish another 11th, you know, and if anything happens ahead, it can still scrape a point. But unfortunately for him, the braking issue just became too extreme, and he ended up down the escape road at to back and lost a whole heap of time trying to engage reverse, do a 3-point turn, and finished in this 15th position. But that does not show his whole race, and that is such a shame to say, because it should have been points this weekend. Once again, it should have been a P9 really for him, if not a P10 at the very least. So for Yuki Tsunoda this weekend, it is 8 points on the cruel room to him, and it has to be. You know, I can't fault him too much for something that wasn't his fault, and it is a shame because he's driven so well this season. He deserved more points, and it just fell short as a result of the car, really. Big shame. So yeah, 8 points to Yuki Tsunoda. Finishing in 16th place, it is of course Sergio Perez.
I'm so disappointed that Logan hasn't caused a safety car yet. Doesn't he know that Williams seat is all about screwing other people's races as well as your own?
Oh, Checo. What a shame, what a shame, what a shame. What can we say, really? It had to be. Stupid error in qualifying. Went in far too fast into turn 1. I don't care what he was driving. He could have been driving a bullet that bends, and it weren't sticking around that corner. Yeah, big accident, big damage. Started in last position. Made next to no progress, which is understandable around Monaco. Went onto the hard tyres on the first lap, made up all the lap time there again. Caught back up to the back of the crocodile. And then from there, he just stayed there, struggled. Tagged into the back of Kevin Magnussen at the bus stop chicane. Yeah, I don't really know what to say, really. It was just Latifi worthy, wasn't it? And that's the end of that, to be honest. Just a weekend to forget. That's 2 qualifyings. He's done shit. Yeah. Anyway, Latifi to Checo. Finishing in 17th place, it is of course Nico Hülkenberg, and Haas this weekend were just doing Haas things once again, weren't they? The car looked dog shit, out in Q1 for the pair of them, which was just like, well, for fuck's sake. And then in the race, they tried doing different things, but they were still firmly at the back. Hülkenberg went down an escape road a couple of times. I mean, it was difficult to tell between the Hasses at one point because they were both going like, after you, no, after you, no, after you, my turn to go down an escape road, my turn to do something wrong. And they just kept fucking up, the pair of them. So, yeah, they were both in the wars, and it was just a dismal weekend this weekend for Nico. One to forget for Haas overall for their 150th Grand Prix start as well, around Monaco. Could have been so much better, couldn't it? But it wasn't. So yeah, 3 points is all I'm going to award. Nico Hülkenberg, he's lucky he got that. The last of the runners, it is Logan Sargeant. This close to a Latifi, but he doesn't get it because we have heard from James and realised that the tyre wear was so excessive it was unbelievable. Then when he pitted again because he had a puncture with one of the hard tyres that he'd gone onto, they stuck him on softs for the reason of, look, we're out of this race anyway, just use it for learning. Use it for learning. Learn how to deal with degraded tyres. Learn how to deal with knackered tyres and keep putting good laps in. So he did something ridiculous like 20 odd laps on a soft tyre that was like meant to do 10. He was doing really well, in that sense anyway, just plodding around with crap tyres on, which, the race was over for him then, so it was definitely over when they'd made that choice to do that, pit stop. Then the rain came, he learned how to drive around with slick tyres on a wet track as well, I guess, and then onto the intermediate tyres, made a couple of errors where he had to find reverse a couple of times. Wasn't really doing very well at all, to be honest, in that sense. Then the wet tyres, the intercity, he did struggle a bit, but he is still a rookie, isn't he? So Logan Sargeant avoids a Latifi, but it is just 1 point to him. Un point for him this weekend, because, yeah, it wasn't great, was it? Then we come to the first retirement on this list, the last in the race, of course, and it is Kevin Magnussen, and his car had just cried enough, hadn't it? He'd hit enough walls, he bounced off enough things, he stayed out on the slick tyres when the whole circuit was a deluge and people were questioning, shall we go into wets instead of these intermediates because the circuit's soaking? And yeah, he didn't really seem to bother about that. He just kept going, going, going. You're going to have to box, mate. You're going to have to box. And then crashed at the last corner before the pit stop just to rub salt into the wounds. Needed a wing. He got clipped. He got hit. He had damage. It just didn't go his way, did it, this weekend? And again, a bit like Hulkenberg. 3 points to him for that. It's as good as he's going to get, and he's lucky he's got it, to be honest. It was just a dismal weekend to forget for Haas. 3 points to K-Mag. And last but by no means least, it is your favourite Canadian, Lance Stroll.
I thought I saw Lance Stroll driving behind me the other day, you know, but it was a Mountie trying to pull me over for driving too slow on the highway.
Oh, Lance. Oh, dear, oh, dear. Shite. Absolute dog shit. And how many times am I going to keep saying this? I can't take Aston Martin seriously while ever he's in that other car. And what do people call Lance Stroll? A rain expert. Ooh, because once he qualified 15th at Monaco, but every car ahead of him had grid drops, so he ended up starting on the front row, and he was the youngest front row starter ever. Oh, fucking hell, marvellous. Tell us all that other shit we don't care about. Oh, remember when he got pole in Turkey? Oh, well fucking done. And what were he doing here? Stuffing in fucking walls. I've seen better driving than that on a fucking F1 game. It's just shit. You know, the qualifying was dog shit. The race was dog shit. He was doing dog shit things all the time. Fernando Alonso is rivaling a pole position and almost winning a race at some point. Had it just been for the fact that they'd have gone onto the Inters instead of those mediums for that lap, he could have bloody won the thing. And what's Lance Stroll doing in exactly the same car? Bouncing it over every fucking barrier he can find, finding every escape road he can find to play hide and fucking seek with everyone, and he only decides that he's going to start reversing out when another car comes down that escape road that he's just gone down to go, oh, you found me, my turn, you go hide, I'll run, oh, I've hit a wall, oh dear. Oh, it's just fucking useless. So yeah, Latifi of the week to Lance Stroll, and we're straight into the final warning with him. Fucks up again, he's disqualified, and he's going to be the first disqualification on the crawl room, potentially, at this rate, because I don't think I've ordered a final warning to anyone else yet. But yeah, it has to be. I can't be dealing with this shit. I gave him sympathy for Bahrain because he was injured, and that was the best race he's done this season. You know, since then we've had Saudi where he was a little bit lacklustre anyway, and then stop the car on track. That happened. Then what did we do in Australia? Were we okay there or were we dog shit again? I can't quite remember. No, it was dog shit, wasn't it? But it was saved because of the restart procedure that didn't count. It was saved there because he just went fucking barrelling off into the gravel. Then we've had... where did we go from there? Where did we go from Australia? Baku, was it? Baku? I can't remember. The race has been that fucking boring. I even forget where they were. Baku, was he dog shit or did he do okay there? I can't remember. Miami was dog shit. Here he was dog shit. So yeah... dog shit. Can't take Aston Martin seriously while ever he's in that second car. And that's the end of that. Latifi of the week and a final warning already to Lance Stroll. So there we have it then, guys. Those were the runners and riders of the crawl room from Monaco. Let me know your thoughts and feedback down below. Did I score any drivers too high? Any too low? The scoreboard updated with these point standings are on the screen now for you to take a look at. That's the table, so you get to see what I've awarded each driver over a weekend. That doesn't move around, but this one certainly does. There you go, take a look at that one. The green is a climber, red is a faller, and blue is staying the same. So yes, let's see how the season progresses, but we can already see who's out of it, who's got a chance, but it's all still to play for. One mistake and you're out of here. Thanks as always go out to Dan of Mushy Gaming for providing me with this scoreboard and the intro and the driver icons that you see on screen. A massive thanks goes out to Dave, F1 Games PlayStation, for the Latifi of the Week skits, and of course who can forget Dominic Orlando that voices Latifi of the Week. Thanks to all three of you guys. Without it, this series would be more pointless than it already is. I'll see you all next week for Spain, the Spanish Grand Prix at Barcelona. Can't wait for that one to be another ball fest. Anyway, thanks so much for watching, guys, and as always, much love.